Ooh,
All right. Hey, everybody.
My hair.
hello, hello.
Can someone in the chat say that you can see us and hear us, just so we can make sure that this is working?
Feels right.
It does feel right, but you never know.
I see a lot of people posting links though.
Okay, cool. Sarah said yes. I'll assume that yes means yes. Okay, cool.
Hey,
Hey, everybody. All right. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're doing a series on podcast website SEO. We've been doing it all year. This is the third in the series. And sort of the initial goal of this was to basically try to figure out like what's the right course material for something that we could do regularly. So instead of saying, all right, let's do 12 months of this, we sort of initially said like there's probably 3 or 4 sessions that have the core and the basics of podcast website SEO. And so this is number 3. Hopefully now I'll post all 3. I'll put a link. I'll find the link, put the link. They're all posted in our help center. So you'll be able to watch all 3 if you'd like. And hopefully after that, we can start getting feedback on what did we miss? What did we go too deep on? What did we not go deep on enough? The sort of the overall way that this has come together is Craig and David from Clarity. I've been working with them on multiple projects on the SEO side. So not necessarily podcast focused, but SEO focused to help Podpage, to help some Podpage clients improve. So as we were going through that late last year, we said, well, why don't we try to put together some material that all podcasters, all Podpage podcasters, and this is open to everyone, so all podcasters can watch, and see if it's useful and see what kind of questions come up and will come out of it. So appreciate everyone for participating in all of these. The way that these generally go, I say very little. Craig and David speak most of the time because they're the actual experts on podcast SEO or SEO. And so they're applying to the podcast website stuff. But please ask questions throughout. I will sort of moderate and manage the questions, and I'll keep them. And then towards the end, we'll go into as many questions as possible. But we're not going to break in the middle of it to answer questions unless it's like super topical or something. I'll interrupt. But for the most part, I just flag them through StreamYard, and then we answer them at the end. So post questions into the chat, and I'll let David and Craig take it from here.
Awesome. Thanks, Brendan. We'll be pinging you back in a couple minutes here as we get to some exciting new tools. So I'm Craig. Nice to meet y'all. For those of you that didn't come on the previous 2, my business partner and basically brother in life at this point is David. He'll be talking more than me. I know I'm very enthusiastic, but he's really our guru. But I wanted to kind of give you guys a rundown. We're going to go through 5 kind of hacks, these SEO hacks, things that you could do every month that won't even take that much time, that could really set you up for success on your website. Stuff you may have heard from us before that we're anchoring further, or trying to give you just like a quick way that it could become a part of your monthly routine. We are going to go over, and this will really be where Brendan comes back into the fray, a really cool tool that'll be rolling out for Podpage users. We're very excited about that. And then, of course, live Q&A. We've done a couple of these and had some great questions each time. We'll have a lot of time for that. So don't be shy. I think Brendan already pinned to ask those questions, and we'll go from there. But I wanted to give you all a sense also of kind of like what we even know about SEO stuff. For those of you that didn't hear us the last couple times, Clarity's been around for about 15 years, and SEO, while it's not the only thing we do, it is the largest part of what we've done over these 15 years to help a lot of small and medium-sized businesses grow. So from keyword research, internal linking, blogging, things you're literally going to hear from us, it's just what we've done over the years. It's SEO is super competitive, but by putting out quality content like many of you guys are already doing, and maybe adding in these extra hacks that you're doing, it could be a real game changer. What you see there in an image is a graph from a software that we use, Ahrefs. Some of you may remember us looking over it in previous webinars. But you'll see as we talk through things, even like Google Search Console, you see other graphs, we're looking for that up and to the right type thing. We're not looking for flat. We're not looking for anything going down. We're looking for growth. And that's what search visibility and SEO is all about. Taking things to the next level, paying attention to those extra details. And through these kind of hacks, we hope that we make it easier for you to be able to take things to the next level. So finally, before I hand it off to David, I'll give you a little bit of like the why, right? Why we're doing what we're doing. We want to make sure that these hacks help you set up things your competitors might not be doing, other shows that are in the same vein as yours, right? Those are opportunities for you. We want you to be able to create a consistent list of actions. We're calling them hacks today because I think everyone understands that means it's a quick and easy thing you can do, but it's really a habit, right? It'll work best if it becomes a recurring habit for you. And that's the thing, that them being brief and something easy to do can really help you out to become a part of your flow, whether you set up a weekly reminder in your calendar or whatever works for you, but creating that consistent action list, those hacks that are really going to be a game changer for you. And then, the way we view things, if you're not growing, you might be losing some traction. So really, to take things to the next level, we view these podcasts, while some of them, again, may just be hobbies and fun, but that still doesn't mean it couldn't grow, right? We're looking toward this with a growth mindset. You're putting time and energy into those episodes. You're putting time and energy into adding to your Podpage website. We're very growth minded. That's kind of what scratches our itch, so to speak, and why we're diving in all these things. So without further ado, I want to kind of hand it off to David to really go through and kind of talk through each of these 5 hacks. And then right in between, we'll have a really fun new tool to show you right in the middle.
Yeah. Thanks, Craig. Yeah. So obviously, I just want to go back to that graph real quick, right? So we all want that graph for our businesses, to go up, or podcast, or whatever your online visibility. And with everybody, usually in the podcast space, probably on the regular creating content, you have the best opportunity to go up like that, just because there's always new things being produced on the regular. So it should be kind of exciting to be able to get what you guys have and getting the most out of it. And like Craig said, it's not just about, what you're doing for yourself. It's also what, what is happening out there in your space, right? Who else is, your competitors, and what are they doing? So one of the things that we have really talked about as being a big push is on-site and off-site linking. Okay. We talked about linking before. We really wanted to kind of include it because we believe that this is probably one of the most underused tactics to help Google crawl your site and understand your site, right? So it's broken down by 2 parts, right? On-site, I'll say, are mostly the things that you a lot of times can control a lot more than off-site. While you can submit your stuff, you don't necessarily sometimes have as full availability to do things. So what does on-site linking look like, right? So you always have your home, you have your about, you probably have your individual podcast pages. So on those pages, maybe you have interviews with the guests. Maybe they link over to certain categories that maybe talk about what it is that you're doing, right? Maybe you're a sandwich podcast where you talk about all the greatest sandwich places, and you have one that talks about New York, or one that talks about Chicago, or one that talks about LA. So maybe you have a category page. You can link over to that category page with the term maybe New York sandwiches or LA sandwiches. So that way people can find out all your sandwich conversations about, it's lunchtime, so I'm hungry, sorry. So that way you could talk about all things, sandwiches, but that link text, right? That text that you're using on the link, right? So it's not, don't click to this category. It's whatever the topic is that you want Google to understand that link is pointing to, should be what that link text is, right? So that's a lot of times you'll select that text and then put the link in there, and that's a highlighted text. That's what Google kind of helps while it's crawling your website to understand what your website's about, or what that page is about to go to is about, right? When you go to your about page, it knows that what's on that page is probably your about. But when you're going to an interview, if you're linking up to Tony Hawk, or you're linking up to a manager or owner or somebody that you're interviewing, you'd want to have their name being the link text. A lot of what Podpage does is put, when you build that out, it builds a lot of those links, which is a great starting point. You just kind of want to probably go in there and add some additional links to maybe, link up additional podcasts that are relevant to that podcast that you just did. There might be a blog post that you can link to that you can go a little bit deeper into. Or like I said, maybe it's the category page that you can link up to help Google to understand what that content is. And that's what you can do on site. There is of course, like, you don't need 100,000 links. Back in the day, you probably remember, if you're old enough, that, in the footer, there used to be 26, links that were the same exact color as the background, and they would link over to a whole bunch of your pages and everything like that. Google's figured out that that's not real. That if they're in your footer, they're not very important, and so you can do that. It's just not going to do anything. It's going to be a complete waste of time. So what Google's looking for is topical links within your content, pointing with an understanding of what it's pointing to, right? So the term, if you're trying to get them to read somewhere, especially in the content that you provide, that you're writing, that you can edit. Sometimes there's buttons that might say read more, but if you're writing content, right, don't say click here to, go here. If you are writing that content, tell them what they're about to click into and seeing. That's your on-site. Off-site is places where you're getting those backlinks from, right? So maybe it is Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Maybe you have some local visibility. So maybe you could show up on Yelp or Angie's List. Maybe your podcast is, involved with because you're a plumbing business or because you have a sandwich shop. So you're able to do it that way. You'd want to make sure that those areas are linking back to you. There's other places that you can get backlinks from. There's social media backlinks. Those have a different kind of weight and everything. But, the more and more you're linking your content off of your site to help people find your site, the better chance, obviously, Google can find your site, and the more users can find your site, right? A lot of the things that we're all about, obviously, is for making sure that Google can, index everything that you're doing and show it. But you have to remember that, like, Google and a user are the same thing, right? They're going to take in your content, build trust. That Google maybe isn't going to listen to your podcast, but they're going to, kind of assess who you are and use some of those user signals to help you rank. So internal linking, we are a big believer in writing content. Obviously, you're producing podcast episodes, and yes, people still read blogs. Content is still a big part of what helps Google understand what a site is about. And even a podcast can rank for a ton of blogs. So a lot of times when you're writing or producing these podcasts, there probably can be, an expert advice blog post that kind of can go with it, right? Whether it's about the person that you're interviewing, whether it's about the topic that you're talking about, one of these on the regular, definitely to also just show to give Google some kind of supporting content, right? So if you're to look at like a piece of content about, again, I think we'll go into, we talked about fishing before. We'll go into fishing, even though I don't know much about fishing, but I'm going to do it anyway, because that's the whole thing. It's not about what you know, but it's about how Google kind of expects to find content. So if we're looking at, let's say, like you are doing trout fishing in North Georgia, and that's a big thing to do, chances are you're going to probably need a page that talks about the fishing poles you need, the lures and bait that you're going to need, maybe the best lakes to go do it. But having that one thing about North Georgia trout might not be enough to help you rank, even if it's the greatest piece of content. Google's going to expect. So the way you can kind of fill that in, you could do a few more blog or podcasts about it, but you could also lean in also on writing some blog posts to kind of supplement that. Google takes in that content, it understands what your website is about, and it helps you only rank better for it. There is no right or wrong in terms of the amount of words that you have to put on your page. I would say that, like, the more and more you could share, the better. Just don't get like too verbose and start changing topics in the middle of that post. Try to kind of come up with the topic and write as much as you can. But definitely having at least maybe one new piece of blog content to kind of supplement your podcast a month would definitely be something that's going to pay dividends over time. Again, while Google can't really read or listen to your podcast, on paper it should be able to, but that's not usually within the ranking algorithm at this point. So right now, blogs are still key. Blogs are still important. And again, like I said, it's kind of more of a supplement to the content that you're already providing. So
No, that's great, David. And I think that was a good time for me to add. I have two things. It's two things. It's like one major thing. Where David's nailed that we are pro blogging, but I want to make sure you guys kind of hear this again. That it's not just because we like the concept of the blog, and Podpage makes it very easy to blog. It's like an easy function in there. It has the SEO sauce, all that great stuff on the elite tools, but blogs are one of the strongest ways to generate organic traffic in the whole internet. Even if you're just doing your own Googling right now, if you're, looking for the, best sandwich types, leaning off of what David said, because he's hungry, right? Like, what are the best sandwiches or best breads for a sandwich? If you Google that right now, you're probably going to get blogs, right? If you're asking not best sandwich near me, that's going to give you a sandwich shop. But you say, how to make the best sandwich, you're very likely going to get other people's blogs on it. And that's because the algorithm is knows that. It knows you're looking for more kind of like learning type content, right? And that's why you're going to hear us beat this drum. But not only will we kind of encourage you to do that, I think Brendan from Podpage has done something that's going to make, I think, a big difference maker for a lot of people. So I want to invite him back in to talk about this new feature coming out that, I'll be honest, got me pretty damn excited when I was seeing it through the email, just because, and I'm seeing it in some of the comments, you hear people, these are awesome creators out there, awesome podcasters that don't always know what to write or what to do. And some of these AI tools out there, ChatGPT, Gemini, all these things can be very helpful. And at this point, I'll just hand it off to you, Brendan, to kind of explain how you're empowering people to really utilize blogging even further.
Yeah. So, this has come up really over the past couple months working with Clarity on Podpage and the importance of content on the Podpage site. And then I started talking to more podcasters who were they love the podcast or the blog feature on Podpage, but they're not necessarily sure how to use it. And there's sometimes that it lends itself really easily. Like you might have, this is on the fly, so this is probably wrong, but you might have a law practice where you write about a certain type of law, and that makes sense as blog posts, but then you interview lawyers about other stuff. And so you have this natural, like, well, I've got my blog content, I know what to write there and I know what to interview. But a lot of people who have a website that's just for their podcast and they focus on their podcast content, their worry has always, and the question they've asked me for years, but the worry is always like, well, I have my interview with so-and-so, and I have my show notes, which I spent so much time writing. And so my episode page has all this great content that's related to the episode. Do I write a blog post about that episode also? Or am I going to basically be like hurting my episode page? And we've talked, Clarity and I have talked about this a lot, about how to advise people, and we might even have a help article. But in general, you don't want to regurgitate the exact same thing that you just did this episode on. It's better just to put all that time and effort into that one page. But doing something that's sort of like tangential or like a complementary type topic is really useful. Now, one of the things that, Podpage exists because podcasters should focus on creating content and not managing their website. So I try to make everything as easy as possible. And so the initial thing was, all right, well, you can have ChatGPT write your blog posts or whatever. But what I found was that it was like a cold start. It was hard to even know where to start with it. And so I'll show you a tool, and this is just launched last week into beta. It's still plenty really buggy. If I try to do a live demo, there will probably be bugs. So maybe we should just try to do a live demo for the fun of it. Let me see if I can pull it up. So it's essentially like a blog post writer that sits inside Podpage. This has been released to the elite plan at this point. And what it does is it's cool. You ask it, and let's just do it. I apologize if it breaks. So this is for a podcast called All the Hacks. Here's all their episodes. And so you basically say, like, what episode do you want to generate a blog post for? And I don't know, let's pick Costa Rica. So they did a episode of Costa Rica. So the first thing we do is we generate topics. So instead of just clicking this and then writing a blog post, we start generating topics for you based on what that is. Because again, you might want to write a bunch of different things depending on what the topic is. So it takes the idea of Costa Rica, looks at your show notes, and then you can write the ultimate guide to planning a trip to Costa Rica. You can do hidden gems. So it sort of takes that and suggests, companion blog posts that could go along with it. And Costa Rica, this is, travel destination. So some of these are pretty obvious, but it's kind of cool what it does when it's something a little bit more specific. Like it'll find, if it's like, oh, interviewing a skateboarder, well, like here's the top 10 skate parks in Southern California or something like that, right? So it tries to create something that would be valuable on its own that could link. So then you say, all right, well, let's do Ultimate Guide to Planning a Trip to Costa Rica. Sure. So you pick the one you want, you generate an outline, and now it's instead of just writing a blog post, it first tries to come up with, well, here's how we'd structure the blog post for you. And the idea here is maybe this isn't the exact structure you want. Maybe you want something that's more specific. And the reason that we kind of walk through it this way is that, AI writing is great, but Google knows everyone's using AI to write stuff. And so AI writing is a good, think of it as like a good writing partner, but not your writer. And so if we just created a blog post for you, well, then that's the same blog post generally everyone's going to get for that. This allows you to add your own customization to it, and you can add your own sections. Like this is what, whatever the AI says, if you're writing an ultimate goal to planning a trip to Costa Rica, this is what they're going to say are the right sections. But for you, maybe you don't want to do local cuisine, or maybe you have you really want to do a whole section on some specific region up there. So you can go in and add your own insight into this. I won't, because I don't know much about Costa Rica. But if you just interviewed someone, you probably know a lot about what you might want, how you might want to change this. And then you go to write it. And what it's going to do is it's going to try to take an article with this title and with this outline and write a blog post based on that and link back to your episode. And then again, it will give you a article that you can then go in and edit. And this might be where we're seeing a bug. Yep, there we go. But what it ends up doing is it gives you an article that you can go in and you can edit, and then you can change. And again, you put your own spin on it. So anyway, that's what we just released. And the idea is to make it really, really easy for you to get from an episode to a blog post without having to do a bunch of other stuff. I'm going to go in and see what that bug is.
While it is a work in progress, it does work. I saw it myself and got so jazzed up about it. I sent back an email when you sent it over, Brendan, and I was like, damn, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's nice. I've got to see what's going on this morning. But anyway, give it a try. But the ethos of it is you can do this. You don't even have to pay for the elite plan. You can do this in ChatGPT or Google Gemini or whatever AI you use. The point that I'm trying to make is that by instead of just saying, write a blog post about this, actually saying like, well, what blog post should I write? And then ask it to give you a bunch of topics. Oh, okay, cool. These are good topics. Well, what out of these topics, like write an outline and just give yourself an opportunity to put your own spin on whatever the AI is going to write. And then the end result is going to be actually unique to you. So anyway,
it's killer, because honestly, the biggest question we get, not even in here, but just from clients, from people we talk to, is ever not always knowing what to write or how to write. And Brendan's kind of nailing it. While I encourage all of you, especially those elite users, to use it because it's set up so well for you, you can, like he was saying, use some of these other ones that you might already have access to, Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever. And Brendan, you said a gem there, like ask it what you should write about. Say, hey, I'm a podcaster podcasting about trout fishing. What are some great blog ideas? It's going to tell you. It's going to say a bunch of stuff that's going to actually then give you those steps. I think there's opportunity out there using these softwares where it can be, think of it like an assistant, and you really can get some back and forth. Oh, it actually did generate it, right?
Yeah, I think what happened was the outline, usually the outline isn't that long. The outline was incredibly long. So I think it was trying to write a massive blog post, which is a good thing to know, to kind of shrink. I need to have it not suggest so many different sections. But anyway, so this is, after I hit the button again, this gives you, a 500 to 1,000 word blog post about this. And if you'll notice, it says, prepare yourself for unforgettable Costa Rica, blah, blah, blah. Listen to our latest episode here and discover expert tips to tailor. So it's already going to internally link, going back to some of the stuff Dave was talking about. It's all going to internally link your actual post to your actual episode. And then we're also going to be adding, if we flag that this post has been written about this episode, it'll actually include a card at the bottom of the blog post that says, here's related. So it'll do a lot of the internal linking for you. But
that's sick. That's awesome. That gets me quite excited, as you can hear, because it really just makes your life easier. We're telling you as one of the hacks do your best to have at least one piece of content that's new and fresh to support, not your episodes, keep doing those, but this blog. And now Podpage is coming and really supporting that and making it something that normally would take, I'll be honest, when I was writing blog posts, it would take some multiple hours many times. I'm just being honest. It's just to write a good post from scratch, even using ChatGPT, sometimes it would take an hour because I'd be editing. You're going to minimize that time down considerably. You can add your own sauce on it. I really think you'll be at like 15 to 20 minutes max and love what you're doing there, meaning you're getting to make it your own using the tool. And that means you could probably go for 2 or 3 a month, which is even going to help ramp up your traffic even further. But I'll stop there because I get too excited. The hack is to get you going at least one new piece of content a month. So I'll stay with that and hand it back to David for a few more hacks before Q&A.
Yeah. So, you're in a good place. Maybe you got some blogs going. Maybe your podcast has been happening for, let's say, 6 months, maybe a year, maybe 5 years, right? A big question that I would ask most of you is, have you gone back to optimize any of your previous episodes? What episodes are working well? And then what can you do to make them perform better? Chances are you're going to start getting some data, some details from Search Console on what your site is ranking for. And from there, you're able to maybe see what pages are performing and not performing, and ones that maybe have better opportunity. Again, the value of optimizing a previous page or post or podcast really comes down to, chances are, if Google's already crawling it and maybe even getting a few keywords in there, you're looking at something that Google's already has visibility on. So at least you know that Google has seen it and has tagged it as something. But you also might notice that maybe it's not ranking for the things that you want to rank for. So that might be also a, hey, here's the episode about skateboards, but yet we don't ever rank for skateboards. So maybe that's some keywords you have to put in there. Maybe there's some additional sections you have to add, or maybe you have to write a blog post to help kind of promote it. But overall, you're going to use some of your previous episodes to hopefully be a part of your monthly plan. Maybe also do one of these a month or so to kind of give it some love, kind of rework some of the content. Definitely SEO is never a set it and forget it type of thing. The same thing with, you build, you put your content out there. Some things are going to hit great, some things aren't. We a few years back, we were talking to a team of TikTok experts, and their thing was that every TikTok that they were creating, the ones that they thought would go viral never did. The ones that they thought were kind of throwaways always went viral. So it's going to be the same thing in Google. What you think is really going to hit might not. And as a reminder, we're doing this for Google end users, right? So the user is going to experience things. As the user enjoys it, a lot of times Google will enjoy it, and vice versa. So if users can find your stuff, Google can find it. And that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to appease both. And then we love, one of the things is EEAT, and that's the experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And that's really having Google to understand that we are experts in traveling to Costa Rica, or that we know so much about trout fishing. And the reason why is because we have other things out there. So everything that you're doing, and maybe because you were doing, podcasts from a few years ago and you didn't put that information in there on how you are the expert or why the person you interviewed is, do what you can to help them out. It also doesn't hurt to even link to the person that you're interviewing and some of the things. So that way Google can also understand that that's the person that we're talking about. Oh yeah, they're sending me to the Wikipedia page or to their LinkedIn or to their website to help kind of build that trust from your thing. And that's simple things that you can go back through and just optimize from your previous episodes. So we talked about Search Console, right? That's where you're setting your site up to help Google know to crawl, to index, to take in your site. I really wanted to show you kind of the two big things that I think are kind of easy wins that you can do to help Google to find things. Now, Google gives you this report that updates on the regular, and you'll get a list of pages. It'll tell you the pages that are indexed. Great. Then it'll give you a list of pages I can't find, pages that have errors, and other things. Some being more important than others. Some also that might not be important at all. You know, we might have 20 or 30 or sometimes hundreds of page issues, but sometimes a lot of times they're not issues because they actually are old pages or pages that we actually don't want Google to find. So you're not necessarily looking at this report and trying to get to zero. You're looking at this report and finding what things are easy wins. So our two favorite are Google say that they've discovered, but they're currently not indexed pages. Okay. And then there's crawled and currently not indexed. They're very similar. A lot of times crawled means that Google hasn't really figured out what the content's about. Discovered a lot of times can mean a lot of times pages will drop off and they'll go into discovered after that. But they in and around mean the same thing. Google's found that page, but unfortunately it does not feel like it's not ranking. It's not getting any visibility probably in your search. So you would want to go into your search console and request indexing. I'm going to show you a quick kind of how to right here, right now, so that way you guys could see an example of it. And what we're again trying to do is just remind Google, hey, this is a page and I think you should have it. Again, you're going to be limited on the number of pages that you can do at a time. So I just pulled up a random site in our search console, and so you could see there's page with redirect, whatever, excluded. That's probably a page we actually did on purpose, and then crawled, currently not indexed, and discovered, currently not indexed, right? And this is here on the left-hand side, just under pages, right? So chances are it'll give you, we have 13 pages indexed and 23 not. So you'll click into currently not indexed. It shows some are there, and we have some category pages. Oh, there's one about a DAO. Oh, cool. So I might click on it. Go into the inspect URL tool. It's going to retrieve it from Google. And at this point, we're going to request indexing, right? So we're going to say, hey, Google, I see you found it in our sitemap and in our category page. You know, you checked it out back in February. Let's come on back. Come on back. So you're asking for it to come back and test your page. It'll do a quick check and see if there's any major errors on why it shouldn't be indexing. Most of these are technical, but if you're getting errors that says it can't do or it's not mobile friendly or something like that, it'll give you a green check mark because you're good to go. But if you do see that it says it's like not indexed or there's a reason, keep requesting indexing is not going to do it. There might be a technical need at that point. So again, so that's again going into pages and crawled and discovered, and it takes a few days, and you can come back in, and that report hopefully will drop off, and you'll have it now in an index, and Google will start showing it up in search. Again, same thing here. Okay, here's some category page. Oh, cool. The welcome page hasn't been picked up. I should probably fix that. I'm going to go ahead and inspect it and request indexing, right? This one's never been crawled, which is why it knew it was there, but it hasn't looked at it yet. That stinks. Let's get Google to find it. Some pages will just over time drop out because maybe Google doesn't connect with it. But this is where having a good internal backlink strategy helps, because the more and more Google can find these pages, the better chance it's going to be crawling it organically without you having to kind of push it. There is at some point a number of times that you can do this. And Google does say, just because you request indexing does not mean it's going to be indexed, and you're not going to be number one because you requested it. But sometimes you have to kind of remind Google that you're here. This is a manual process, which kind of helps to prove to Google you're obviously you're around and involved. But again, Google's very clear that just because you request indexing does not change that you're going to rank or not rank, but rather just kind of improves the chance of it finding that content. So that's using your Search Console report really quick. So once you get a page going, you can drop it in there and request indexing. It can't hurt if that page exists. I guess I'll show maybe an example quickly of that. So if let's say this was a blog post that I just did, or let's say, where was it? It's up here. So let's say you could also just put the page up here, brand new page just went up. You could see if Google's found it, maybe not. And then you could put it up there and then request indexing. Or over time, once you know the if it gets in your sitemap and Google's found it, it might show up in some of these page reports here. So you might be able to find it there as well. But this is just a way to say, hey, a piece of content and I need you to rank it. So, all right. And then next up is things that you guys can do to help build awareness is building some of those backlinks, right? So some of the ideas also could be being a guest on somebody else's podcast. Chances are you might be getting guests on yours. You're obviously probably comfortable already with podcasts, but trying to find opportunities to link to get backlinks from your energies and efforts to your site. And that's only just so Google can find you more and more, right? Backlinks are a trust signal in how Google can find you. So it's just an easy way to build backlinks, probably something you're already comfortable doing. So you're able to guest post, they'll link back to your podcast page. Chances are, as also an authority for them to help. If they're not, a good idea is to let them know, hey, make sure you link up to my content or link up to my about or link up to my homepage with my name. So that way they know to find you. Again, these are valuable links that if Google's crawling their site as well, they're also getting your backlinks probably from the Spotify's, the Apple Podcasts, and the other places that Google's finding it. So again, it's just an easy way to get podcasting that could actually add backlinks. So if you're more comfortable in podcasting, lean into trying to build those up again on the regular, kind of getting onto some podcasts. And then we are a big fan of not just writing a blog post, but also kind of repurposing our content, other people's content, not stealing, but finding better opportunities to put stuff out there, right? Whether it's the top 10 sandwich shops or maybe top 5 podcasts that you did about sandwich shops, right? Whatever what might be, you can now create kind of an all-encompassing page that talks about it. You could put several episodes together. That's now an authority topic on that. So that could be your blog post that can do it, right? So you're taking your podcast and repurposing it. Same thing within social media, right? You could take clips, right? There's audio clips that you can take. There's ways that you could do the audio and the video. Some of you guys are doing video clips as well. So you could use those. And there's, plenty of ways to put those out there. And you're going to share a percent of them and they're not going to get visibility. But, again, you're just looking for maybe somebody likes it, shares it. It's a numbers game of visibility in terms of how people are finding you. Maybe they find that piece of content on social, link up elsewhere, maybe from their blog post to yours, so you can kind of get out there in other ways, get more visibility. So definitely don't shy away on some of the social networks out there, even if some of them are not really providing a ton of metrics, right? And especially if you're having interviews with people, social media can be an easy thing that they can share as well. But definitely trying to find, what you have and then putting them out there to help out with visibility. Again, just ideas, things to make everybody's life easier. So
yeah, the hacks have been hacked, if you will. And this is recorded and we'll have this, Podpage will make this available for you. Just a fun quote we found: no matter how niche or mainstream your market is, great content remains the focus, right? And the content comes from you. It's what you're doing. It's the episodes you're putting out. It's the blogs you're putting out. It's the clips you're doing. So, that's definitely the onus here is on the content. Making sure you're putting content out there is how the algorithm will find you. So I think definitely we want to leave the rest of the time for questions. So Brendan, if you want to tee us up with, we'll stop sharing here and let's dive right in. I see we have a bunch. Oh, you got muted.
All session videos. I just made a playlist on YouTube for
I like
videos.
We famous.
Throw that up at the top, and we'll link to that playlist, but that should have everything in it, including the one that we're doing right now, which is, look at that. Okay, a lot of questions. Let me go quickly through the rest of them and get these going. Harry, I just linked it. Okay, we have a lot of questions, but we will go through them. going from the beginning. Now, this was put in with the very beginning when you were talking about on-site and off-site links.
David, is there? Give your take on this.
So internally, it should be, so internally there is no like hard and fast rule, but you're not going to want to have the same internal link multiple times on one page, right? You try to only have it probably once, because after that, like the way Google sees it, after the first time, it doesn't really care about the rest of them anyway. So, but at some point, it should be natural. It should be in the flow. Every paragraph shouldn't necessarily have a link in it unless it's relevant. However, if you're getting 3 to 5 a page, I think you're in good shape internally to kind of link up to content. But if you only have one, that doesn't hurt. Like, I'd say do one over none. But like, if you have 10 really good things, content and pieces that you can provide, I would definitely do that. Backlinks, quality backlinks from external to your site. To me, this is a quality over quantity. Having a ton of really bad, low quality ones from, third party, kind of like forums and things that people post stuff like, those aren't going to have value. But anything from something in your niche, something that is an authority in your space, or like I said, some of the major podcast providers are going to be better quality ones. So I would say you get, 1 or 2 of those on the regular is going to be a lot better than don't get 100 of the ones from, I don't know, because, the blogspot.coms or whatever are not going to do anything for you.
Yeah. When we're talking about a blog post, we're always trying to have at least 1 to 3 internal links throughout 1,000 words, right? And at least 1 or 2 external links to show that we're like an expert on the topic and referencing something. Kind of think it back to like a research paper from school, like your bibliography. And when we're talking about links, all we're talking about, when Brendan was showing the blogging tool and you kind of saw that, like where you would type, when you're putting in your episode text, your blog text within Podpage, there's like a menu bar that lets you change the font, lets you change the size, lets you change those things. There's a little chain button. That's a link. That's how you make a link, just like you would. But the thing that I think we want to coach everyone on is most people think, oh, I'll just put the www dot in there. That's a no-no. That's what you don't want to do. You don't just want to take, oh, I want to link to this other website. Oh, so I'm going to put the exact URL in. That's not helping from an SEO perspective. That's why that little button in there that lets you link, it actually says, what do you want the text to be? And then you put the link. You want that text to be, you've heard David say it, we keep calling it anchor text. That text that you write in, instead of, I think someone just ask it about that. If instead of saying click here, you don't want to do that. You don't want to say click here. You're not telling Google what that link is.
Yeah. And the software might put here, but that's your now vision to then go in there and put, hey, click to learn about, Costa Rica. Boom.
That's your anchor text. Your anchor text
there.
is what tells the algorithm, ooh, I see that they are having some keyword intent here, and moving it over. So sorry, there was just a couple questions we answered within that one there. But when you've heard us talk about internal linking a lot, that function is just the chain function in any of your blog or episode kind of editors.
Cool. All right. I'm going to do a couple about the SEO blog post tool that I showed, just because I can get them easily. Great. So Andy said, can we add our own prompts? At this point, no. This tool is supposed to be built to be structured for you. You can edit the content, the outline. But if you're at the level where you're thinking about adding prompts and doing prompts, like I would say, just go use ChatGPT or some of the other ones if you're at that level. The AI blog post tool also pulled from the episode transcript. It does. The reason I kind of look off to the right when I say that is because some transcripts are. It just sort of depends. If it's a 3-hour show, it probably won't include every single thing. But in the vast majority of cases, it will look at the transcripts and use those. Does this new blog tool automatically link to the episode? Yeah, so it's instructed to link inside the text, and then we'll be adding links outside of the body text that'll like, you know, on the page, it'll be like, this link is related, or this blog post is related to this episode, and this episode is related to this blog post. So all that stuff will be automatically done. Let's see, just to confirm. Yes. So that's the one I just answered. Here's one that came up. I actually asked this as a reminder to ask it in case anyone didn't. But when you're going through the Search Console, this comes up. I don't know if Google's changed something. This comes up more and more and more these days. I think when I started Podpage, we'd submit the sitemap. The sitemap be created. Everything would be nicely linked together. And basically Google would index all the stuff on the site unless it had issues, right? Or unless it was a redirect or something like that. But I feel like over the last couple of months, this has come up a lot more. And obviously, you know, it's terrifying to users. So they write me super unhappy and angry that their site isn't getting indexed. And so this is a self-serving question, but you know, why is this happening more? And is there anything programmatic that Podpage can do or the user can do instead of having to go in? Because sometimes it's like 400 pages have been discovered, but not indexed. Is there anything users can do outside of having to click 400 times?
Yeah, well, so I would say that that's where internal linking is going to be your friend, right? Because the more and more Google can find that content and know what that content is about. Because again, the reason why it's discovered or crawled and not indexed is really just because I'd almost put two ways, right? Either it just didn't find it enough or didn't think that it knew exactly what it was about, i.e. it's maybe you linked it up once, good, but maybe that link was okay and it was only put up 3 months ago, and so it doesn't really know what that content's about. So sometimes it's it doesn't know what that content's about. So putting other internal backlinks will help improve your abilities. I would also say that maybe I'll put a third thing in there, but also the second thing is the reason why also sometimes it doesn't show is because there is not a known keyword that it is really even knowing what to rank for. Now, Google search is very, you know, it is, there is no like, there are set keywords because a percent of people just type in the same keywords. But like, if it doesn't really know what that page or topic is, it's not going to know how to index it. So at that point, it might not put it underneath something if there's not already kind of some kind of keyword there. So maybe it also is about massaging some of the content on that page. If you requesting indexing and it's not working, definitely. But then over time, most of our sites, when they first kind of get indexed, you got to go a little bit heavy into requesting, but then over time, it feels like Google, it seems to pick them up a little bit more. And then obviously, if you're posting on a regular cadence, Google's kind of learned to kind of come back and crawl and check if it knows, you know, you're already building trust for that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I have noticed because a lot of when in the beginning, I thought we were doing something wrong. And so I would go into the Google Search Console for the user. And usually if I click request indexing, almost all the time it comes back, it indexes. It says it's indexed. Doesn't mean I'm searching for it or clicking on it on Google, but it means at least it's indexed. And so I did find that manual helps a lot, but it was a lot of work. So
yeah, it's just kind of coaxing. It is a little bit more. Maybe there's more content on the internet now than ever, so it's not maybe picking up as much, but you know, just kind of a little push.
Cool. Hopefully that answers Steph's question about why are things not indexed. Steph, if it doesn't, feel free just to ask a more specific question. I wanted to remind, Sharon said, too fast, can't follow. We try to pack in a lot of content so we can get to questions. All of this is recorded and you can watch it afterwards. So hopefully you can go back and follow along there. Do I need a special Google membership to reach the Google Search Console? No, you can use it. Everyone can use it.
I put a link in the chat, but it's also Podpage support has actually quite a few links on this that are just like how to use Google Search Console, even how to do it. It is free.
Yeah. It's actually, if you go into Podpage and you go to grow search engine optimization, one of the things that we actually write is to make sure you register yourself in there, to our detriment, because that ends up causing a lot more customer support as people are confused when they get in there. But we do encourage everyone to do it. Someone's asking, they have write content for multiple podcasts. You essentially register each site individually in Google Search Console, as long as you have the access to the DNS or the Google Analytics account. There's a few different ways you can verify, but if you can verify it, you can put it all under your Google name. All right, so let's go here. Someone's asking, I think this was back in your internal linking. So Podpage supports categories, and if you add one of your episodes or blog posts to a category, or you add a category to the blog post, there's a category page that's created that lists all the categories for that blog post. Like that, those types of things, I think they're asking, like, will that help, or does Google just see that sort of as programmatic organization?
So years ago, people used to say that those were not quality page content, but and that like Google has a restriction on how many pages it will crawl. All of that has been debunked at this point. So we are very pro category and building out those pages to have, you know, actual relevant blogs or podcasts or whatever it is that you are trying to help Google to understand. So those can help. Those maybe are not going to be the thing that ranks the best. It can. Some category pages can. They tend to just be kind of stack listings of ones, but it's more for helping Google to understand your content and other pieces of content that are relevant.
Cool. I was putting a pin in this to discuss internally later about what we could do to make those pages better. Because right now, you know, obviously it's just a list of the episodes or a list of the blog posts. There's obviously a lot more we could do there if possible. Podpage always tries to do this, go down this line of, we want to make it as easy as possible for the podcaster. So the podcaster just says, oh, this episode's about money, right? They write the word money, they click enter, and then suddenly there's a page about money created. There's links added to all the pages linking to and from the episode to the money page, from the money page to the episode. But it's programmatic and it's fairly straightforward because again, the effort is just type word money, hit enter. So if there's additional steps that we could recommend they do to fill out that page to make it more relevant to Google, we should chat about that later. All right. Are you suggesting we create a standalone page dedicated to a topic and from there link to all related pages on your site? This is sort of category related. I think they're asking, if I'm trying to read this correctly, it's should they create a custom page that they're really customizing, or is adding a category kind of enough here?
I mean, I would say it depends on what you can write about, right? If there's definitely abilities to write on it, or if you have a number of blog posts that talk about traveling to Central America, then you can maybe link up to all your Costa Rica, your Panama, whatever it is. You could have like a country page that talks about that. You could also have a category page that is Central America, but then you might, if you can write further on it, I would definitely suggest writing further. Google loves content, right? It helps it to understand who you are. So the more and more you could kind of help show some ways to kind of connect that piece of content, it's going to help.
Cool. I'm trying to be mindful on time. We have 5 minutes. We'll try to burn through a lot of this. Okay to put links in the user experience. You said that it's fine. You just don't want to put like 100 links in there.
Yeah, as long as it does not detrimental to how somebody does it. But Google does have it knows when it's in the footer and it's fully. They're a little bit lower on its priority when it's crawling, because
that's like it's what some of those things like keyword stuffing used to be a thing 10 years ago too, where you can put a bunch of keywords in the bottom. They just know now. Google knows. So if you're burying a bunch of links in the footer, it's not going to get you where you want to go.
Gotcha. All right, so here's a question. I want to do a quick, and we don't have very much time, so this will be very, very quick. But someone was asking about update the SEOs. I'm sort of going to abstract this question to just as a reminder for something that Podpage does. You can go in here. This is also on the Elite plan, and for anyone who's basically the way that I think about the plans is a basic site is like you just need your podcast on the internet. A pro plan gives you access to communicate with people, gives you access to almost all the features. The Elite plan is like you really want to dial in all the specifics and you want a little bit more automation. That's kind of how the three work. And so this is part of the Elite plan. But every episode on your website will have an SEO report, and you can go and it'll kind of tell you how you're doing. And so the reason we do this, and you're asking about walk through how to update the SEOs, is because Podpage or Craig or David, we have no idea what you're trying to rank for. We just know what your episode's called and what the content is. But for this person, like what's the main thing that you want to rank for when people go to Google? Are you trying to come up, for this finding the best deals on flights? Are you trying to rank for best flight deals? Or are you trying to rank for this person who they interviewed? And so you can come in here, and if you don't say anything, we don't know. And so it's unclear as to what to do, but you can come in, you can say, all right, the keyword that I'm really focusing on is the name of this person. And we'll go through and we'll say, okay, cool. It's a good length. This is the only page that you're trying to rank for. If you're trying to rank for best money episode for 50-year episodes, you're competing with yourself. And so we'll look at the URL length. We'll look at whether it's in the title of your page, whether it's in the keywords. And we'll tell you kind of how the page is doing. So this page is pretty good. If this person was trying to rank for like, I don't know, crispy bacon, we would do an analysis on those. And let's see, where is that? That's here. And so in that case, there are some good things about it, but it's not really using any of the titles. And so you'll start seeing a bunch of warnings. And so this kind of will help you guide how to update. And again, I'm trying to come up with how to update the SEOs for Megan, like what you might want to do. There's some tools within Podpage to be able to do that. So that was just a quick demo of that. And then Doreen, how do we find data from our site? I don't know when you're saying data, if you're looking for SEO data, that tool could help. If you're looking for sort of analytics, you can plug in Google Analytics or a bunch of other tools. Let's see. This is a bigger question, but you like a 15-second response?
Yeah, because I was typing through some of this. So when we say optimize, right, and maybe it's just one of those words to maybe a little too buzzy occasionally, right? What we're saying is refreshing, adding, updating. So an episode page or a blog that maybe went up previously, many of us forget about it, right? The reality of life, right? We're just doing things, we're going. The opportunity within SEO is to look at, by looking at console, by looking at analytics, seeing what's going, and actually take it to a new level. I'll be honest, for every single one of our SEO clients, we're actually optimizing almost as much as we're new blogging, right? There's a balance there. We're trying to get new content to go after new keywords, and then we're going back to kind of punch up, refresh. So if it's an episode page, the example David was giving earlier, we talked about a lot. If we're talking about a Tony Hawk interview and we're trying to do better, it may be that you go back and you add another paragraph about the Tony Hawk video game, for example, or if you didn't have that already on there. If there's a blog post, I'll go back to my terrible sandwich concept there. If it's like the 10 best sandwiches in Central Florida, I would go back to it and punch it up to the 14 best, right? To help it improve even more and more. Add another link on it. So when we're talking about optimizing, I apologize for us using that word. That's almost like an industry word, if you will. What we're talking about is punching it up, improving it, because search is very competitive. Meaning if you're that trout fisherman podcast, or you're the podcast about money, all the hacks, right? There are other people writing about this stuff. There's other people doing it. So you're going to want to regularly go back to your performing stuff and keep improving it. So optimize equals improve, add more.
Cool. We have 10 more, but we'll try to get through as many as possible in a couple of minutes.
Let's see what we can
previous
do. We'll rip through 5 minutes. Let's do it.
On a YouTube Clarity channel, if you want to, the previous sessions for this are in that playlist that I added above. Okay. I'm sure you guys have a lot of content. I don't feel like in any of these.
We could do better. We could do better. We have a bunch of blogs and some things, but we could do better.
But yeah, we'll try to put together like an overview of the SEO stuff somewhere in the Help Center, and we'll link to Clarity and any content that they can give us. I'm not sure exactly if this is specific enough to answer succinctly, but let me know if you have a quick response.
I gave some answers in there too. I'll kind of echo that. If we're talking about repurposing content, if you're using an app, again, no affiliate here. No, you may have others, Brendan, but we used to use and liked Headliner for audio clips, and it was really easy. I think some people were even chatting. It goes right to YouTube, but you can download each one and go on social platforms. We've liked Opus Pro as well. Descript is one really well as well. Like they're using AI, and you can take content and chunk it through. And then for those of you that don't want to take it to that level, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of those, you can feed it a full blog and use a prompt like, hey, give me 20 social posts out of this, and it will do it for you. It will do. That's what we mean by repurposing content, using tools. You already have a great blog post you did, right? Well, If it lives on Podpage, that's good for organic, but maybe you need stuff for your socials, or you want to tease things out, or maybe you have a newsletter and you're looking for it. When we're talking about repurposing, we're talking about using tools. Opus Pro and Descript were like video specific. Headliner was audio. ChatGPT or any AI assistant, Copilot, Gemini can really help you with social posts. Just literally plug in the text and ask it to give you good social posts for it. It's kind of a crazy hack for time savings.
All right. Harry said, I'm already providing a transcript of my podcast host Captivate. Can this be pulled into my Podpage episode? It should be. When we pull in an episode, we check to see if the host in your podcast feed, so it has to be in your podcast feed, but if your podcast feed has a transcript URL in it, we will then try to go grab the transcript from that URL. So Harry, if this isn't happening, it's a pro plan feature and above. If it's not happening, ping support and we can look into why yours might not be coming in. Transcripts, full transparency, are a bit of a nightmare. They're provided in lots of different formats. The transcript you give to Apple and to players tends to be really broken up into timestamps and speakers because they're actually wanting to highlight the words as someone's listening to it or watching it. On Podpage, the transcript is more used for someone to just sit and read it. It's an accessibility feature. It helps with Google. And so we prefer it should only be in a big paragraph. It looks weird when we just print like the timestamp one. So if you don't provide the paragraph one, there's not a lot for us to import. But Harry, just ping support and we can look at your specific case. Destiny was asking about a blog platform that's best for beginners. I would say whatever you're using already is probably good. So if you're on Podpage, just use the Podpage blog platform.
Correct.
If you're on one of the other sites, if you have a podcast website on WordPress or whatever, just use the WordPress one. If you're on Buzzsprout or one of these like host sites for your podcast page, I think Medium is a good. I don't know if Medium's the right one, but you can assign blog.yourdomain.com to some other site. I don't know if you guys have a specific one. I always recommend Medium because you can just get started and you have to set anything up.
Medium is very cool if you're cool with it being off your URL. They're probably the best one, easiest to use for off platform, right?
Well, and the reason I'm saying that is because the case that I was talking about was if you're on like your Buzzsprout page or your Libsyn page that doesn't have a blog platform.
Exactly. That would be the best one. And I think the setup's like instant. It's so easy to be in and blogging. But I did respond to that one in the thread as well. Like if you have a Podpage website, I would very much encourage you to just use the Podpage blog functionality because you'll win that way.
But most like choosing what mic to use when you're getting your podcast started or all this stuff is like, just do whatever's the easiest that will get you creating the content the fastest, because it's more about getting used to writing than it is like making sure the blog is perfect. And I mean, you can use Tumblr or whatever you think is the easiest, but Medium's pretty easy. I think WordPress is relatively complicated, but that's just me.
Well, because then they got to build stuff, and that's not as DIY, if you will.
Get whatever you can do to get quickest to, forget another one. I mean, Squarespace is a whole thing. I would try Medium and write 10 blog posts, and after 10 blog posts on Medium, then move over to something that's,
yes. Substack too is a
Substack's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, because Substack's great. All right, that is, I think, most of the question. We're starting to get more views. I haven't looked at this one yet.
Yeah, we were talking with a few people in there about YouTube stuff.
Okay.
There were some softwares mentioned as well. TubeBuddy and vidIQ are really cool YouTube tools. YouTube is the #2 search engine on earth. It goes Google, then YouTube, right? Yahoo and Bing are just really struggling, right? And the amount of views you can get just by adding in a better title, hashtags into your description text can be a major game changer if you're on YouTube.
Just as a quick edit, I don't think Buzzsprout has one. I might be wrong, but Dave says Libsyn does have a blogging platform as part of your website. So if you're a Libsyn user using your Libsyn page as your main website, as long as your domain is pointing there and they have blog functionality, just start there. Start with whatever's easy and optimize it once you've got some traction. But I think as you probably all feel this with podcasting and any creative effort, the hardest part is actually just being consistent and doing it. And so don't let the tools get in your way. All right. I think that's it. I'm sure we missed a couple comments. I apologize, but thank you all so much. Again, this is all going to be, the session videos are all going to be on YouTube. We'll share that. I shared it. It's pinned, so grab that. It's on our Podpage HQ YouTube page. It'll be they're all also embedded in our help desk. So if you go to support.podpage.com and you search webinar, you'll come up and you'll see all the embedded videos. So, and then we'll hopefully package this up and put it together. But so this is the last of the 3 sessions, and we're going to regroup and we're going to figure out, do we do these 3 again in the same way? What do we change? So the more feedback you can send us, the better. Also, please share all these links with any other podcasters that you know that aren't on Podpage. They're available to everyone, and hopefully they're helpful. So thanks everyone so much for spending the morning with us, or the afternoon, depending on where you are.
Bye, guys.